Standard 9, Social Science, History, Unit 4, Intellectual Awakening and Sociopolitical Changes. Learning Objectives 1. To understand the transition of society from 6th century to 2nd century BC, BCE. 2. To familiarize ourselves with the essence of new religious faiths, Buddhism, Jainism and Ajivika in India, Zoroastrianism in Persia, and Confucianism and Taoism in China. 3. To become aware of the circumstances that led to the formation of states with a focus on Magadha Empire. 4. To understand the socio-political changes of the pre-Mauryan and Mauryan states. Heading: Introduction. A new civilization began to develop in northern India, with the revival of trade and urbanization during the 6th century BC, BCE. In this period of major political and social changes in North India, Buddha and Mahavira were born. In the century following their death, Buddhism and Jainism took root as major religions in India. This meant that new religious orders were coming up with many followers, propagating new beliefs and philosophies. Similarly, Zoroastrianism in Persia and Confucianism and Taoism in China became popular during this period. Topic: Religion in the 6th century BC, BCE. The new civilizations that emerged in the New Iron Age had certain common features. They were characterized by the proliferation of new crafts, growth of long-distance trade, building of cities and towns, rise of universalistic religions and evolution of a code of conduct. 6th century BC, BCE, was, therefore, a period of exceptional development in all spheres of life such as material, cultural and intellectual. About this time, we find that a number of prominent men, great thinkers and founders of new religions lived, making it a period of great historical importance. Philosophical and religious thinkers such as Confucius in China, Zoroaster in Iran and Mahavira and Buddha in India gained popularity in 6th century BC, BCE. Topic: Confucianism and Taoism. In the 6th century BC, BCE, two great thinkers were born in China, Confucius and Lao Tse. They laid down the systems of morals and social behavior for individuals and communities. But after their death, temples were built in their memory and the philosophy they taught was developed into a religion, known as Confucianism and Taoism respectively. Their books were held in great reverence in China. Confucianism exerted a big influence on not only the political class of China but also on the common people. There is a picture of a map with places marked as associated with the intellectual awakening in 6th century BC, BCE. Some of the places marked are India, Nepal, China and Iran. Heading: Confucius, 551 to 478 BC, BCE. Confucius was born in the Shantung province of China in 551 BC, BCE. He studied history, poetry, philosophy and music. He is the author of 5 important works. 1. The Book of Records, which is chiefly ethical, providing guidelines for the regulation of human society. 2. The Book of Odes, illustrating the sound principles of morality in songs. 3. The Book of Changes dealing with metaphysics. 4. The Spring and Autumn Annals, a code of political morality, and 5. The Book of History narrating the events and legends of the early religions of China. There is a picture of Confucius. Heading: 5 Cardinal Principles of Confucius Ethics. 1. Humaneness. 2. Righteousness. 3. Propriety. 4. Wisdom. 5. Trustworthiness. Confucius said that wisdom grows from the family, and that the foundation of society is the disciplined individual in an orderly family. The superior man, according to him, is not merely intelligent or scholarly, but his character should be exemplary. The superior man of Confucius possesses 3 virtues: intelligence, courage and goodwill. Though Confucius insisted on children obeying parents and wife her husband, he also clearly proposed that, when the command is wrong, a son should resist his father and a minister should resist the prince. When asked about government, he said that there are 3 requisites for it. There should be sufficiency of food, sufficiency of military equipment and confidence of the people in their ruler. Heading: Taoism. Lao Tse, the greatest of the pre-Confucian philosophers, was 53 years older than Confucius. Lao Tse was born in 604 BC, BCE, disgusted with the intrigues of politicians and the prevailing corruption of his time, he left China to live in a peaceful abode. Lao Tse wrote a book in 2 parts, running into 5,000 words. He then disappeared from the place and no one knew where he died. His book Tao Te Ching is a guide to the conduct of life. Heading: Teachings of Lao Tse, Taoism. 1. The cause of human unhappiness in the world is human selfishness. Selfishness creates unlimited human desires, which can never be satisfied. 2. In nature, all the things act in a natural way. The law of human conduct must correspond with nature. 3. Humans live a life under the regulation of someone. This is because they have acquired knowledge and have not remained innocent. On the basis of their acquired knowledge, they have built up an urban civilization and have made themselves unhappy. There is a picture of Lao Tse. Topic: Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism is one of the oldest of the revealed world religions. It remained as the state religion of 3 great Iranian empire, which flourished from the 6th century BCE, and dominated much of the Middle East. Zoroaster of Persia is the founder of Zoroastrianism. Zoroaster was pained to find his people worshipping primitive deities. He revolted against it and proclaimed to the world that there is one God, Ahura Mazda, the Lord of Light. The holy book of Zoroastrians is Zend-Avesta. It is a collection of sacred literature of different epochs, containing religious hymns, invocations, prayers, confessions, laws, myths and sacred reminiscences. The doctrines and rituals of the Zoroastrians have much similarity to those of the Vedas. Heading: Teachings. Zoroaster taught that the great object of religion, state or society is the cultivation of morality. The highest religious conception is purity of thought, word and deed. He asserted that Ahura Mazda has 7 qualities. 1. Light. 2. Good mind. 3. Right. 4. Dominion. 5. Piety. 6. Well-being. And 7. Immortality. Ahura Mazda is omniscient, knows everything, omnipotent, all-powerful, and omnipresent, is everywhere. In Zoroastrianism, sacrifice and image worship were discarded. Fire was worshipped as a symbol of the deity and considered the highest form of worship. Charity was made an essential part of religion, and service to the poor was particularly emphasized. Topic: Impact of iron. Heading: Technology in India. In the Gangetic Valley, people learned to produce crops more than that was required for subsistence. So, another section of people took up some professional crafts as their livelihood. Like the farmers, these craftsmen also had to rely on a group of people who collected raw materials and distributed the craft products. Early urbanization happened in 2 ways. One was as a result of some villages specializing in blacksmithy, pottery, carpentry, cloth weaving and the like. The other was on account of the congregation of specialized craftsmen in villages close to where the raw materials were available and where markets were present. Such a concentration enabled villages to evolve into towns and exchange centers. Vaishali, Shravasti, Rajagrih, Kausambi and Kashi were some significant commercial centers of the Gangetic Plain. Topic: Religion. Post-Rig Vedic. 3 more Vedas, Yajur, Sama and Atharva, were composed after the Rig Veda. Manuals of rituals called Brahmanas, specifying rhyming words to be sung, and 2 commentaries on certain Rig Vedic hymns called Aranyakas, containing knowledge to be learned secretly in the forest, and the Upanishads were compiled in the Upper Gangetic Plain during 1000 to 600 BCE. Topic: Jainism and Buddhism. In the Gangetic Plain, iron plough agriculture required the use of bullocks. But the indiscriminate killing of cattle for Vedic rituals and sacrifices caused resentment. The founders of Jainism and Buddhism did not prescribe killing as a religious rite. They secured their livelihood mostly by alms. Celibacy and abstinence from holding property made the new teachers much more acceptable than the Brahman priests. The people's resentment about the expensive and elaborate Vedic rituals, animal sacrifice and the desire for wealth eventually took them towards Jainism and Buddhism. Mahavira and Buddha lived a life of purity and exemplified simplicity and self-denial. They lived in the times of Bimbisara and Ajatashatru, the famous kings of Magadha. The commercial development of the northern cities like Kaushambi, Kushinagara, Benaras, Vaishali and Rajagriha added importance to the Vaishyas who turned to Buddhism and Jainism in their eagerness to improve their social status. Topic: Jainism. Heading: Mahavira, Birth and Life. Vardhamana Mahavira was born in 599 BCE, at Kundagrama near Vaishali. His mother was Trishala, a Likchavi princess. He spent his early life as a prince and was married to a princess named Yashoda. The couple had a daughter. At the age of 30, he left his home and became an ascetic. For over 12 years, Mahavira wandered from place to place, subjecting himself to severe penance and self-mortification. In the 13th year of his asceticism, he acquired the highest knowledge and came to be known as Jaina, the conqueror, and Mahavira, great hero. Jains believe that Mahavira came in a long line of Tirthankaras and he was the 24th and the last of them. Rishabha was the first Tirthankara and Parshvanath the penultimate or the 23rd. Mahavira travelled extensively as a preacher in the kingdoms of Magadha, Videha and Anga. Magadha rulers Bimbasara and Ajatashatru were influenced by his teachings. Thousands of people became his followers. After 30 years of preaching, Mahavira died at Pavapuri in 527 BCE, at the age of 72. There is a picture of Mahavira. Do you know? The statue of Bahubali, known as Gomteshwara, 57 feet, at Shravanabelgola in Karnataka is the tallest Jaina statue ever carved out in India. There is a picture of Bahubali, heading, Teachings of Mahavira. The three principles of Jainism, also known as Triratnas, are the following. 1. Right faith, belief in the teachings and wisdom of Mahavira. 2. Right knowledge, acceptance of the theory that there is no God and that the world existed without a creator. 3. Right action, it refers to the Mahavira's observance of the 5 great vows. 1. Ahimsa. 2. Honesty. 3. Kindness. 4. Truthfulness and 5. Not coveting or desiring things belonging to others. Heading: Spread of Jainism. In order to spread his new faith, Mahavira founded monasteries. The Jaina monks who led a very austere life in North India, this new faith was patronized by rulers such as Dhanananda, Chandragupta Maurya and Kharavela. There was a notable followers of Jainism in Karnataka and western India during the 4th century BCE. Jainism encouraged the public spirit among all who embraced it. Varna system practiced by Brahmins was challenged. People were spared from the costly and elaborate rituals and sacrifices. Mahavira believed that all objects, both animate and inanimate, have souls and various degrees of consciousness. They possess life and feel pain when they are injured. Heading: Split in Jainism. In course of time, Jainism split into 2 branches, namely the Digambaras, sky-clad, and the Svetambaras, white-clad. Heading: Decline of Jainism. The lack of royal patronage, its severity, factionalism and spread of Buddhism led to the decline of Jainism in India. Do you know, Jaina Kanchi, Jainism was one of the major faiths in the Tamil region during the 7th century AD, CE. The Pallava king, Mahendravarman was a Jain. Under the influence of Akbar he got converted to Saivism. Close to the present town of Kanchi there is a place called Jaina Kanchi where you find many Jain temples. One of the important temples is the Tirupati Kundram temple, where the ceiling is painted with the life story of Mahavira. Topic: Buddhism. Heading: Gautam Buddha, Birth and Life. Gautam Buddha was the son of Sudhodana, the chief of a Kshatriya clan of the Sakyas of Kapilavastu in present-day Nepal. His given name was Siddhartha. As he belonged to the Sakya clan, he was also known as Sakya Muni. He was born in 567 BCE, in Lumbini Garden, near Kapilavastu. His mother, Mayadevi, Mahamaya, died after a few days of his birth and he was brought up by his stepmother. In order to divert his attention towards worldly affairs, his father got him married at the age of 16 to a princess called Yashodhara. He led a happy married life for some time and had a son by name Rahula. One evening, while Siddhartha was passing through the city, he came across an old man who had been abandoned by his relatives, a sick man crying with pain and a dead body surrounded by weeping relatives. Siddhartha was deeply moved by these sights. he also saw an ascetic who had renounced the world and found no sign of sorrows. These four great sights prompted him to renounce the world and search for the cause of suffering. In 537 BCE, he left his palace and went into the forest in search of truth. In the course of his wanderings, he sat under a peepal tree for several days until he attained enlightenment. The place where he attained enlightenment, the Mahabodhi temple, still exists in Bodh Gaya, Bihar. After his enlightenment, Buddha decided to impart his knowledge to the people. He went to Varanasi and gave his first sermon at Sarnath. He preached in the kingdoms of Magadha and Koshala. A large number of people became his followers, including his own family. After 45 years of preaching, he breathed his last in 487 BCE, at Kushinagar, near Gorakhpur in Uttar Pradesh, at the age of 80. There is a picture of Gautam Buddha. Heading: Teachings of Buddhism. Subheading: Four Great Truths. 1. There is suffering and sorrow in this world. 2. The cause of human suffering is desire and craving. 3. This pain or sorrow can be removed by suppressing desire and craving. 4. This is to be achieved by leading a disciplined life or by following what Buddha called the Noble Eightfold Path. Subheading: Attainment of Nirvana. According to Buddha, a person should aim at attainment of nirvana or the highest bliss, and it could be achieved by any person by leading a virtuous life and by following the Noble Eightfold Path. Subheading: The Noble Eightfold Path. Buddha preached a new path to attain the purest state of mind. 1. Right views. 2. Right aspirations. 3. Right speech. 4. Right action. 5. Right livelihood. 6. Right effort. 7. Right mindfulness and 8. Right contemplations or meditation. Buddha preached that he who practices the Eightfold Path can attain the highest and purest state of mind. Heading: Spread of Buddhism. Buddha, in order to carry his message to different parts of India, established the Buddhist Sangha or the Holy Order of Monks. The bhikshus, monks, and the bhikshunis, nuns, were enlisted for spreading the faith, and they were required to lead a life of purity and poverty. Buddhism spread to Central Asia, Sri Lanka, Tibet, Southeast Asia, as well as the eastern countries of China, Mongolia, Korea, Japan and Vietnam. Heading: The split in Buddhism. During the reign of Kanishka, the Buddhist monk Nagarjuna initiated reforms in the way Buddhism was being followed. As a result, Buddhism was split into two as Hinayana and Mahayana. 1. The Hinayana, lesser vehicle, was the original creed preached by Buddha. The followers of this form regarded Buddha as their guru and did not worship him as God. They denied idol worship and continued with the people's language, Pali. When Buddha's closest disciple Ananda asked Buddha whether women can become monks, Buddha said, yes, if women can follow the path of renunciation, they can become monks and completely enlightened just as men. 2. In Mahayana, greater vehicle, Buddha was worshipped as God and Bodhisattva as his previous avatar. The followers made images and statues of Buddha and Bodhisattva and offered prayers, and recited hymns, mantras, in their praise. Later, they wrote their religious books in Sanskrit. This form of Buddhism was patronized by Kanishka. Heading: Decline of Buddhism. Buddhism declined in India due to the following reasons. 1. Buddhism was popular in the beginning because it was preached in people's language, Pali. The later texts were written in Sanskrit, which was difficult for the common people to understand. 2. The split in Buddhism into Hinayana and Mahayana was another vital reason. Image worship in Mahayana made no difference between Hinduism and Buddhism. 3. Buddhism lost its royal patronage during the reign of Guptas. 4. Further, the invasions of Huns and Turks almost wiped out Buddhism. Topic: Other heterodox sect. Heading: Ajivika. The period that produced Buddhism and Jainism also witnessed the birth of a sect known as Ajivika. Its founder was Goshala, Maskariputra Goshala, a friend of Mahavira. For some time, they were together. Later, Goshala moved away and founded the Ajivika sect. As an atheistic sect, Ajivikas rejected the karma theory, which postulated that the condition of men is determined by their past actions. Goshala argued that acts of charity and piety can, in no way, influence this finality. Ajivikas had a small presence in southern India. Under the Cholas, a special tax was levied on them. Three Tamil texts, the Manimegalai of Buddhists, the Nelikasi of Jains and the Sivijnana Siddhiyar of Saivites, contain the outlines of Ajivika doctrine. Heading: Gana Sanghas. There were two distinct forms of government at the time of Mahavira and Buddha: monarchical kingdom and clan oligarchies or Gana Sanghas. The Gana Sanghas provided a polity alternative to the kingdoms. Vedic rituals and the rules of Varna were not followed. The Gana Sanghas consisted of either a single clan, such as the Shakyas, Koliyas and Mallas, or a confederacy of clans, such as the Vrijis and the Vrishnas, a confederacy located at Vaishali. The Gana Sanghas had only two strata: the Kshatriya Rajakula, ruling families, and the Dasa Karmakara, the slaves and laborers. Topic: Rise of Kingdoms. The 6th century BCE witnessed the establishment of kingdoms, oligarchies and chiefdoms as well as the emergence of towns. From the largest of the chiefdoms emerged kingdoms. Many tribes of Rig-Vedic period such as Bharats, Pashus, Tritsas and Turvasas passed into oblivion and new tribes such as the Kurus and Panchalas rose into prominence. 16 Mahajanapadas are listed in the Buddhist texts. Linguistic and cultural commonality prevailed in the Janapadas, whereas in the Mahajanapadas, different social and cultural groups lived. With the emergence of kingdoms, the struggle for supremacy among different states occurred frequently. Sacrifices such as Rajasuya and Aswamedha were performed to signify the imperial sway of monarchs over their rivals. The Rig-Vedic title of Rajan was replaced by impressive titles such as Samrat, Ekrit, Virat or Bhoja. Northern India extended from the Kabul Valley in the north to the Godavari in the south. It witnessed the rise of 16 states known as Mahajanapadas or 16 great states: Kasi, Kosla, Anga, Magadha, Vijji, Malla, Chedi, Vatsa, Kuru, Panchala, Matsya, Surasena, Asaka, Avanti, Gandhara and Kamboja. Heading: Growth of royal power. The king enjoyed absolute power. The Sabha of the Rig-Vedic period ceased to exist. The king sought the aid and support of the Samiti on matters like war, peace and fiscal policies. However, in spite of the existence of the assemblies, the power of the king kept increasing. The Satapatha Brahmana describes the king as infallible and immune from all punishments. The growth of royal power was reflected in the enlarged administrative structure. The king was now assisted by a group of officers such as Bhugadugha, collector of taxes, Suta, charioteer, the Aksharapa, superintendent of gambling, Kshatri, chamberlain, Gorikartana, king's companion in the chase, Palogola, courtier, Takshan, carpenter, and Rathakara, chariot maker. In addition, there were the ecclesiastical and military officials like the Purohit, chaplain, the Senani, army general, and the Gramani, leader of the village. In the later Vedic period, Gramani, who acted both a civil and military officer, was the link through which the royal authority was enforced in the village. The king administered justice and occasionally delegated his judicial power to Adhyakshas, royal officials. In the villages, Gramivadin, village judge, and Sabha, court, decided the cases. Punishments for crimes were severe. Heading: The rise of Magadha kingdom. The polity followed in kingdoms was different from that of Gana Sanghas. Kingdoms operated with a centralized government. Political power was concentrated in the ruling family, which had become a dynasty, with succession becoming hereditary. There were advisory bodies such as Parishad, ministers, and Sabha, advisory council. The Sabha collected the revenue and remitted it to the treasury in the capital of the kingdom, from where it was redistributed for the public expenses, such as maintenance of army and salaries to state officials. Of the kingdoms mentioned in the literature of the period, Kashi, Koshala and Magadha are considered to be powerful. The only republic that rivaled these kingdoms was the Vrijis, whose capital was Vaishali. In the struggle for control for the Gangetic plain, which had strategic and economic advantages, the Magadha kingdom emerged victorious. Bimbisara was the first important king of Magadha. Through matrimonial alliances with the high-status Lichavi clan of Vaishali and the ruling family in Koshala, Bimbisara went on to conquer Anga, in West Bengal now, thereby gaining access to the Ganges delta. Bimbisara succeeded in establishing a comprehensive structure of administration. Village was the basic unit of his administrative system. Apart from villages, grammars, there were fields and pastures as well as wasteland and the forests, Aranya, Khetra and Vana. Each village was brought under a Gramani, headman, who was responsible for collecting taxes and remitting them to the state treasury. Officers appointed to measure the land under cultivation and assess the value of crop were to assist the Gramani in his task. Land tax, Bali, was the main source of revenue to the kingdom and the share of the produce, Bhaga, was determined proportionate to the extent of land cultivated. The term Shadbhagin, one who is entitled to a share of 1/6, referred to the king. Thus, a peasant economy came into being at Magadha. Iron plough agriculture led to the rise of Empire Assyrian in Iran and Magadha in India. Ajatashatru, the son of Bimbisara, is said to have murdered his father and ascended the throne in 493 BCE. He continued his father's policy of expansion through military conquests. The capital city of Magadha was Rajagriha, which was surrounded by 5 hills, providing protection to the kingdom from external threats. Ajatashatru strengthened the Rajagriha fort and also built another fort at Pataligrama on the Ganges. It served as the exchange center for the local produce and later became the Mauryan capital of Pataliputra. Ajatashatru died in 461 BCE, and he was succeeded by 5 kings. All of them followed the example of Ajatashatru by ascending the throne by killing their parent. Fed up with such recurring instances, people of Magadha appointed the last ruler's viceroy Shishunaga as the king. After ruling nearly for half a century, the Shishunaga dynasty lost the kingdom to Mahapadma Nanda, who founded the Nanda dynasty. The Nandas were the first of non-Kshatriya dynasties to rule in northern India. Topic: Mauryan Empire, State and Society. Heading: Mauryan Kings. Vishnugupta, who was later known as Chanakya or Kautilya, fell out with the Nanda king and vowed to dethrone him. Chandragupta, perhaps inspired by Alexander of Macedonia, was raising an army and looking for opportunities to establish a kingdom of his own. On hearing the news of Alexander's death, Chandragupta stirred up the people and with their help drove away the Greek garrison that Alexander had left at Taxila. Then he and his allies marched to Pataliputra and defeated the Nanda king in 321 BCE. Thus began the reign of the Mauryan dynasty. During Chandragupta's reign, Seleucus, the general of Alexander, who had control over countries from Asia Minor to India, crossed the Indus only to be defeated by Chandragupta. There is a picture of Chandragupta Maurya. Seleucus's envoy, Megasthenes, is said to have remained in India, and his account titled Indika is a useful record about Mauryan polity and society. After gaining control over the Gangetic plain, Chandragupta turned his attention to northwest to take advantage of the void created by Alexander's demise. These areas comprising the present-day Afghanistan, Baluchistan and Makran surrendered without any resistance. Thereupon Chandragupta moved to central India. According to Jaina tradition, towards the end of his life, Chandragupta, who had by now become an ardent follower of Jainism, abdicated his throne in favor of his son Bindusara. Bindusara, during his rule, succeeded in extending the Mauryan Empire up to Karnataka. At the time of his death, a large part of the subcontinent had come under Mauryan suzerainty. Ashoka succeeded Bindusara in 268 BCE. There is a picture of Emperor Ashoka. Desirous of bringing the remaining parts of South India into his empire, Ashoka waged a war against Kalinga in the 8th year of his reign. The people of Kalinga fought bravely, but they were defeated after a large-scale slaughter. This war and slaughter affected Ashoka so much that he decided to give up war. Ashoka became an ardent Buddhist after meeting the Buddhist monk Upagupta and propounded his dharma. The only true conquest, he proclaimed, is the conquest of self and the conquest of men's hearts by the Dhamma, Pali, or Dharma, Sanskrit. He issued edicts, which were carved out in the rock. There are 33 edicts, including 14 major rock edicts, 7 pillar edicts and 2 Kalinga edicts, apart from minor rock edicts and minor pillar inscriptions. They form the reliable sources to know about the Mauryan Empire, in particular the Dharmic rule of Ashoka. There is a picture of Ashoka pillar, Allahabad. In one of his Kalinga edicts, he tells us his horror and sorrow over the deaths which the war and conquest caused. In yet another edict, he makes it known that Ashoka would not tolerate any longer the death or captivity of even 100th part of the number killed and made captive in Kalinga. Ashoka's passion for protecting life extended to animals as well. Hospitals were constructed for them and animal sacrifice was forbidden. Ashoka sent his son Mahendra and his daughter Sanghamitra to Ceylon to spread his message of dharma there. Ashoka died after ruling for 38 years. Our national emblem with 4 lions is a replica of the Ashoka pillar of Saranath. Heading: Mauryan Administration. The Mauryan state in its early years undertook some measures that were positive for the development of society. The state raised taxes to finance a huge standing army and a vast bureaucracy. The Mauryans had evolved a very efficient system of governance. The king, as the head of the administration, was assisted by a council of ministers. There were Mahamatriyas, who functioned as secretaries to the ministers. The person in charge of revenue and expenditure was Samahata. The empire was divided into 4 provinces and these provinces were administered by governors, who were usually princes or from the royal family. The district was under Sthanika, while Gopas were in charge of 5 to 10 villages. The municipal, Pataliputra, administration was under a Nagaraka. 6 committees with 5 members each carried on their duties under him. 1. They were to take care of the foreigners. 2. To register the birth and death of the citizens. 3. To look after trade and commerce. 4. To supervise different manufactures. 5. To collect excise duties and custom duties. Like the city or town administration, the military department was also managed by a board of 30 members, split into 6 committees, with 5 members in each of them. At the village level, there was Gramani, whose responsibility was maintaining the boundaries, keeping the records of land and a census of population and livestock. In order to keep a vigil over the entire administration, including the conduct of officers, a well-knit spy system was evolved and put in place. Justice was administered through well-established courts in all major towns and cities. Punishment for crimes was severe. Do you know? Chandragupta's minister Chanakya is credited with a book titled Arthasastra, which gives a detailed account of the Mauryan administration. The state used the surplus appropriated for the development of the rural economy by founding new settlements, granting land and encouraging the people to settle as farmers. It also organized irrigation projects and controlled the distribution of water. There was state control of agriculture, mining, industry and trade. The state discouraged the emergence of private property in land and banned its sale. The Mauryan state gave further boost to urban development. It secured land trade routes to Iran and Mesopotamia, as well as to the kingdoms of northern China. Arthasastra refers to Kasi, Banaras, Vangar, Bengal, Kamarupa, Assam, and Madurai as textile centers. The distribution of black polished ware of northern India as far as South India is indicative of the extent of trade during the Mauryan rule. Trade contributed to urbanization in a big way. New cities such as Kaushambi, Bhita, Vaishali and Rajagriha had sprung up in the Doab region. Heading: Educational centers. Monasteries and temples served the purpose of imparting education. Nalanda was a great monastery built by the Magadha Empire. Educational centers offered Buddhist and Vedic literature, logic, grammar, medicine, philosophy and astronomy. Even the science of war was taught. Nalanda became the most renowned seat of learning in course of time. It was supported by the revenues of 100 villages. No fees were charged to the students, and they were provided free board and lodging. Recap: 1. 6th century BCE was a period of material, cultural and intellectual development. 2. Confucius ethics in China and Zoroastrian religion in Persia, Mahavira's Tri-Ratnas and Buddha's Eightfold Path in India created a new awakening and provided a moral code of conduct to humanity. 3. 6th century BCE was also a period that witnessed the rise of Mahajanapadas. The 16 such chiefdoms are listed with the focus on Magadha as a powerful kingdom. 4. The Mauryan dynasty was founded by Chandragupta Maurya with the aid of Chanakya. 5. The Mauryan administration and the greatness of Ashoka with particular reference to his Dhamma is highlighted. Now, we are at the end of Unit 4. Thank you.